So I moved to California 2.5 years ago from the state of Florida, and I was very naive. I didn't know much about anything, and I basically ended up making this really big mess with my taxes, right? And so because I didn't know what I was doing with California state return, all that other mess, I ended up just sticking my head in the sand and not filing my taxes for the year 2024. And then this year came up, I needed to file for 2025, right? And so this became a very stressful situation. And I do mean very, very stressful, right? And so I started because this year I thought, the thought crossed my mind to just don't do them again, right? And then I heard the Lord say, no, file your taxes this year. And I was like, okay. So I started going out on this journey, looking for someone to help me file my taxes for the 2 years that I missed or whatever. I'm looking around, asking people, and I couldn't, no one was giving me anything. I wasn't getting any bites, right? And so I know I've shared before, and I'll share it again, that I am currently homeless, right? And so I don't have much income, and I don't really know much, or so anyways, I was in this I was at this center that serves food to the homeless, and one of the ladies who is also homeless, she was there. She works though, so I asked her if she knew where to file taxes, and she was like, yeah, there's this organization that does people's taxes for free. You just look up the name, you call them, they'll schedule you an appointment. And so I'm like, okay, bet, right? So I ended up calling them. I talked to the lady on the phone and I tell her, hey, I explained my situation to her. I explained my current situation to her. And she basically says, hey, we'll make an exception for you. I'll email the director for like the region that you're in. Let them know that you're coming in. It won't be no problem. So I'm like, okay, cool, right? I remember right around that time, the Lord telling me like, no, the person that you need to do your return is an actual person, not an organization. Like basically like the person I'm seeking, or the person he has for me, is a person. It's not an organization. So I was like, okay, but these people said they'll do it for free, so I don't have to worry about the fee, right? And so God was like, okay. I start moving. I start getting all my paperwork ready. I get all my stuff. I head on down to the organization to do my taxes. Right? Now, before I get into what happens at this organization, I need to tell you guys this, which is how stressful this situation was for me. Because at this point, it wasn't just well, I don't know how I'm going to get the money to pay taxes that I may owe. I don't know how I'm going to get the money to pay the preparer fees. At that point, it had grown far beyond that, because it had now turned into a heart issue. And here's why I say it's a heart issue. It was a heart issue because I know someone who does taxes, and she lives in the state of California. We go to the same church. I used to work in her tax office. There were many years where I worked in her tax office for free. The last year that I worked for her, which was 2024, the tax year in question, or the tax year that I needed help with, I worked in her tax office that year. I worked in her tax office for free. She was supposed to file my tax return that year, and then she ghosted me. She stopped talking to me, y'all. Out of nowhere, out of the blue, she stopped talking to me. And I was like, whoa, right? It was one of those, like, I was working from her office, even though I was also in the state of California. She lives quite a few hours away. And her like office is like home based or whatever. And so I did a lot of the work that she needed me to do like virtually, right? Because I was in a different city from her, and then she didn't want me in her home, da 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 da. So she was supposed to do my taxes that year, and she never got back to me. And I remember praying to God about it, and he just kept saying, wait on her. Just wait, just wait, just wait. And I was like, okay, God. That tax season came and went. She told me she would file an extension for me. And then I never heard from her again. I didn't hear from her again for 7 months, y'all. And if you know anything about tax season, like taxes or people who prepare taxes, they start their like prep for the next tax year at the end of that year, right? And so right around October, November, December, that's when they start doing all their like prep, like they start taking courses to make sure they're up to date on the laws, they get their forms together, all that other stuff, right? So mind you, she was supposed to do my taxes in March. She ghosted me for 7 months. She then reaches out to me in October, and then she's, right. So I was like, okay. So at this point, continuing on, I'm like, it has become a heart issue because it's no longer about money. It's about a heart issue now, because now my heart is filled with like unforgiveness. And because I'm thinking about, I was thinking about this woman, and I thought about all the ways that I had helped her. I thought about, and I was so angry. I'm gonna make this as fast as I can, y'all. I was so angry because and when she did do my taxes, she charged me, even on the years that I worked for her for free. You would think that she would do my tax returns for free. She didn't. I paid her every year, right? And so it had become a heart issue, because I'm homeless, right? And this same exact woman, when she lived I've known her for about a decade now. At the beginning of our relationship, right? Because right now, anyways, at the beginning of it wasn't a romantic relationship. I do need to stress that. She's quite a bit older than me. She's about 30 years older than me. She's old enough to be my mother, right? And when I first met her, about 2 years into this decade-long relationship, because I looked to her as like a mentor. I looked at her as like a spiritual mother. And so that I want to frame as that's what the relationship was. About 2 years into this relationship, she actually became homeless herself, and then she lived with me in Florida, because she did half the year here, half the year in Florida. Half the year she lived in Florida so 2 years, so 6 months in 1 year, 6 months in a second year, she lived with me in my apartment, and she didn't pay rent. She ended up, that first year, she got into some situation. She ended up homeless. She stayed with me. I didn't charge her rent. I didn't charge her utilities. I didn't charge her anything. I didn't even ask her to buy me groceries. She lived in my home for free. And then the second year, I asked her to pay utilities. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Florida. The maximum, and most days, and that was in the summertime, she paid was probably about $150 for the electricity and the water. And I was homeless. I asked her if I could stay with her for a few weeks, and she said no. I asked her to file my tax return. She said she would do it, and then she didn't file them, y'all. She ghosted me and didn't file them, didn't say nothing to me about them, right? And now I'm sitting in this tax situation that I don't know what's going to happen or what to do, right? And I should be able to call her, because if ever there was a time for the good things that I have done to this lady to matter, this is how I feel. This should be the year. This should be the year that she at least says, I got you. I'll do it for free. You don't even got to worry about it. She didn't. She didn't do any of them things. She didn't say nothing to me. Matter of fact, she ain't talked to me. She ain't talk. I can't even begin to tell you the last time she spoke to me or called me. I've lived here 2.5 years, guys. I've known this lady going on a decade. I can tell you there's been situations where people walked into her tax office wanting to beat her up. I stood next to her. There was times where her office manager, the person who owned the building, put her stuff out on the street. I stood next to her. She needed somebody. I got 9 brothers, y'all. She needed somebody when that man put her stuff on the street, on the sidewalk. She needed somebody to come and help her move her things. I called my brothers, y'all, mines, to come and everybody came and got together and helped move her stuff from one place to another place while she was getting her stuff together. Do you guys hear me? She lived in my home for a year. She got into a car accident. She drove my car, ain't never put a lick of gas in it. She moved from one home. When she moved out of my apartment, she moved into a different apartment. It was me who went there to help her move. Y'all, I can tell you how many times she has called me in the last 2.5 years. 2.5 years. I can tell you on one hand how many times she's actually called me. How many times she sent me a text message. How many times she saw me in church and said hello to me. It had now become a heart issue. It wasn't just, I'm missing some money. It became a heart issue because I'm looking at all the kind things that I did out of the goodness of my heart for someone who has the ability to help me. That I actually did reach out to her to help me. And didn't say, and she didn't even call me, y'all. She wouldn't even pick up my phone call. And so I was angry. And I kept praying to God to help me with unforgiveness. Because I knew when the situation came up, the stress that I was feeling, the emotions that I was feeling, it wasn't just because I was broke. It was all the things that had transpired. And someone had the ability to help me. And they let me struggle, right? And my mom, okay. Anyways, so at this point, it became a heart issue. And, sorry, just give me a second. So at this point, it became a heart issue. And I'm praying to God about it. And I remember hearing God say, mind you, he was the one who told me to file my tax returns this year. And then I hear him say, it's a person, not an organization. It's a person. So I say, okay. In the meantime, because I scheduled the appointment for the organization, in the meantime, I drive Lyft. I meet this woman doing Lyft who is an office manager for a tax office, right? Now, I tell her my situation and she says, basically, she doesn't file taxes, but she knows someone in the office who is familiar with my type of situation and they could help me. She said, but if it doesn't work out with the free organization, call her and come see her. She gives me her cell phone number. She gives me her office number. And I'm like, okay, bet. I knew there was a chance that the organization would not have been able to do my tax return because the lady on the phone said they were making an exception anyways because I was homeless, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. Because of my tax situation, I didn't qualify. But because I was homeless, right, they were going to make an exception for me, right? Because they understood, like, I don't got it. So I'm like, okay, cool. I go up to this organization. that first day, I walk in, I speak to this woman. I wish I remembered her name. I speak to this woman. I tell her at the front desk, like where you sign in, where you check in. I explain to her what my situation is, and I ask her, can we do this? She says, did you live in the state? I'm like, she's like, did you live in the state of California? Da, 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 da. I'm like, yeah, I lived here. She's like, we can do it. Don't worry about it. I say, okay, cool. Now they had 2 sets of people. These are all volunteers. They had 2 sets of people that are like basic, people that are like advanced. First dude come in, his name tag say basic. I said, I don't need you. I need advanced. Then 2 more people come in. They say, and I'm like, I need someone who is very like well versed in this, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that this is a bit of a complicated situation. I finally get to someone. I get 2 people. I explain my entire situation to them. They say, boom, we can do it. We go into the area where they start, because they have you fill out forms. We go into the area where they start input in my information into the computer. This entire thing takes 2 hours, right? From the time my appointment started to the time I leave. What ended up happening is, and while we're back there, they're talking to multiple people, asking them questions, da 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 da. By the time that I leave, so we spent about 2 hours. By the time that I leave, they decide, you know what, let's just pause right here, and then we're gonna come back and like finish this all up tomorrow. So what ended up happening was they started on tax year 2024. But they ended up putting all that information in tax year 2020. So they said 2024 was the most complicated. They're going to start with 2025 because it's the most simple, and then just go back. But they won't file them like that. They'll file them the right way. I said, okay, cool. She goes in to do 2025. Come to find out, they put all the information from 2024 into 2025. So they basically so instead of us coming in the next day and them just picking up where they left off on 2024, they basically have to stop and redo it all over. So that those 2 hours that we just spent going through it is gone. It was wasted, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. I come back. They say just come back the next day. Come back at the beginning of like, because they have certain hours. They're volunteers. People got jobs, lives, da, da, da. So they have a time frame of when they're there. They said come back at the top of the hour when they get there. And I told the lady that I was working with today, I'm like, listen, I don't want to have to do all this stuff over again. I'm just going to wait on you. She's like, okay, cool. She comes in, the same woman I worked with the day before. We sit down, we start going through. She had a question. She goes, asks like one of the head honchos the question. The guy comes back and he tells me they cannot file my tax return here. So I'm like, what? Now at this point, we done spent an hour and a half sitting down, putting everything into the computer. Then we get to this one part, and then the guy says, we can't file your tax return here. And so now I'm a bit frustrated because I'm like, but I asked the lady yesterday, before we even started all of this, can you guys do my return? I sat there and I asked her, I took time to make sure before I even signed in, can you guys do my return? And she said, yes, you guys could. And now you're telling me after all this time that you can't do it. And he was like, I'm so sorry, we can't do your tax return. Then he said, what lady did you speak to? And I point that lady out. I'm like, I spoke to her yesterday when I came in, right? And I said, and I've been talking to this lady. There was another lady, because they had 2 people working on my stuff. The guy goes and asks the lady, the first lady I spoke with, right? And she's kind of like a supervisor type lady over the whole situation, the organization. And he goes and asks her, and he's like, did you speak to that woman yesterday and tell her we can do her tax returns? This lady bold-faced lies and tells this man, I never spoke to that lady, not one time. I was like, oh, okay. I think the brightness changed. I'm sorry. Anyways, we're going to continue on. And then, so that Now, I was already frustrated, but I understood because I knew there was a chance they wouldn't be able to do my tax returns, right? And so at this point now I'm livid, and I'm not mad because they couldn't do my taxes. I'm mad because she lied on me. I'm mad because she lied unnecessarily, right? And so I said, you know what? It's fine. Let me just go. I'm heading out, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just go. Because God has taught me there are times when you should say something, and there are times where you just need to be quiet and you just need to take it on the chin and go, right? And this is one of them situations where I knew I need to just take it on the chin and I need to leave. So I leave the organization. I call the woman who gave me her phone number. I step into her office, and she introduces me to the tax preparer lady, right? She sits down with me. She tells me, she's like, yeah, I'm familiar with your case, like things that you've done, da 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 da. She's like, because you didn't have an appointment, I can't actually sit down with you because I have someone coming in right after you. But I'll give you a call back in a couple of days and you can come back in. We'll sit and go through it. Just leave your paperwork with me. I was like, okay, cool. And this whole time I'm hearing God say, trust me. I got you. Oh, I missed a part. When that lady lied on me and I got frustrated and I made the decision to just be quiet and leave, I went to go sit in the car and I was crying. And I remember when I was sitting in the car, I was sitting in the car. All of a sudden, the Lord brings this memory back to my remembrance. So my camera cut off real quick, but back to it. So as I was sitting in the car, I was crying. The Lord brings this memory back to my remembrance. So about a year and a half ago, my mom was sick. She had a liver infection, right? But the liver infection had went untreated for so long that it started to affect her different organs. And so it gave her an infection in her gallbladder. She ended up being hospitalized, and then it started affecting her brain. So her brain started to swell, right? And it was so bad to the point where she couldn't remember who she was, where she was at, what she was doing, right? And so the doctors had to double check that my mom wasn't brain dead. And so they kept wanting to get her into surgery, right? So they asked us if we can authorize the surgery. At this point in time, because my sister was there with her in Florida and I'm here in California, right? And my sister was like, I can't make the hard decisions. I need you to make them. So they're calling me to authorize the surgery. I'm like, yes, go ahead and do the surgery, right? But my mom, every single time, before they could do the surgery, I don't remember if it was an MRI or CT, but I believe it was a CT. Before they could do the surgery, they had to get her a CT scan done, right? Every single time they took my mom up to CT to get the scan, she would start acting out. She would just start losing it. She wasn't able to get the CTs done. And because she wasn't able to get the CTs done, she wasn't able to get the surgery. And so the surgery kept being pushed back. And in the meantime, she's still dealing with all these different things that's going on with her body and her organs. And they didn't really know what was going on. By the goodness of God, right? By the grace of God, the mercy of God, they found out that my mom had a liver infection. They gave her some medication and she instantly started to turn around and start getting better. My mom is alive and well today. She is not brain dead. She just celebrated a birthday in December. It's April. And on her birthday, she said, thank God. She's like, I'm just happy for life because last year we didn't even know if she was going to make it. But I said all that to say this. When they were pushing for that surgery, I wanted them to do the surgery too. But every time she went in for the CT, God was blocking it. He was doing something, because every time she went in for the CT, God blocked it. He blocked it. He blocked it. He blocked it, right? And I remember how frustrated I felt, because I was so scared and so worried, and I kept wondering. Okay, so my phone ran out of space. I had to go make space. We're back again. So, to pick up where I left off, I was basically just saying how I remember how frustrated I felt, because I wanted to get my mom into that surgery, because in my mind, I felt that the longer the surgery took, the worse her condition would get, because the surgery was like supposed to help her to get better, right? And so what ended up happening is God was blocking it, because she didn't need to have surgery at all. And her going into surgery, all of that was so, it was extreme and unnecessary, right? And so, and God knew she just needs medication. She's going to get better, right? And so that's when it ended up happening. They ended up giving her medication. Her gallbladder infection cleared up. Her liver infection cleared up. Her swelling in her brain went down. Like, when I talk about a full recovery, no surgery needed, a full recovery, guys, right? And so when I was sitting in the car and I was crying, that's what came to my mind, right? And I remember, and I just kept thinking, God blocked it. Like when that came to remembrance, I was like, okay, God's blocking it, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So I call the lady. I go into her office, give out my paperwork. She says she'll call me back. When a couple of days pass, I come back into the office, right? And the woman who is helping me, right? Number one, she tells me that they're going to do my tax return for free. So I was stressing out about what it would cost me to pay the preparer. And they did my tax return for free, right? She said, you don't even got to worry about it. And then she said something that really touched me. I didn't explain my whole situation with this woman like I didn't tell the previous lady, the office manager. I didn't tell her my whole situation either, like I did the people like I did the lady who made my appointment on the phone, right? So she doesn't know that I'm homeless. She doesn't know any of that information. But what she does say is, she looks at me and she says, I can tell you're a good soul. She says, I can tell that you are a good soul, and I want to do a kind thing for you. That's what she says, unprovoked. And she prepared my taxes for free. And she said, I want you to have, in this part I'm not saying verbatim, but she says basically like, I want you to have a clean slate here in California. And I knew that was God, right? And I was praying to God for that too, right? And so I was worried about all this stuff, and God came through. And so I wanted to share this testimony for other people, right? And there's so many different lessons that you could grab out of this, right? But there's something that I really want to harp on, and that's this, right? Because recently, the Lord, I didn't know that's what we were doing. The Lord has had me do this been studying on the poor, the needy, and the vulnerable. Excuse me, and helping those people, right? And so if you're someone who is poor, needy, oppressed, vulnerable, I want you to know, from what I've found, what I've studied about God, what I've experienced with Him, God hears your prayers. I want you to know that. God hears them. Even if you feel like they're going unanswered, or it's not being answered the way that you want, etc., right? I need you to understand God heard you. He heard you. He heard you. If you're homeless and you're praying, he's heard you. If you're in a domestic abuse situation, he heard you. If you're at work and your boss is abusing you, he heard you. If you're in a church and they're treating you, they're neglecting you, they're spiritually abusing you, he heard you. From what I've learned, because he's had me read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and I know you're thinking, what does that have to do with the poor, the needy, the vulnerable, and the oppressed? Who do you think cried out to God for him to come and see what's going on in the city? Those people. Then he had me read the book of Amos. Same thing. Who do you think cried out for God to hear what's going on in this country? The poor, the needy, the vulnerable, the oppressed, right? Then on my own study, I've been reading the book of Luke, and I read the other day the story of the Good Samaritan, right? The man who was robbed, right? Left for dead, and then a Good Samaritan came and helped him. Then before that, he had me read the parable about the goats and the lambs, which is another parable on helping the poor and the needy and the oppressed and the vulnerable. All of these, in the last few weeks, I've read all of these. And in every single one, God hears the needs of the poor, the needy, the vulnerable, and the oppressed. There's not a situation that you will go through, if you're in this category and you pray to God, that he won't hear you about, right? But I'm going to say this, right? Because I want to encourage, but I also want to tell y'all the truth. But when God goes to respond, right? Because he will respond to your oppressors. He will respond to your need if you're being extorted or exploited. But what he's going to do is he's also going to take a magnifying glass. This is my magnifying glass. He's going to hold it up to everyone in the situation. That means you. That means the person oppressing you. That means every single person in the situation. Before he passes judgment, right? He's going to hold up a magnifying glass to see when he look at you. Hold on, because I'm a little dramatic sometimes. When he looks at you, does he see his son? Does he see his son Jesus? Right? And when he magnifies you, and then when he responds to your prayer, you will either receive a reward or a judgment. You'll receive a reward or a consequence. Right? Because if you're the poor and the needy, but you're evil in your heart, right? And he looks at you, he don't see his son in there, he's still going to give you the consequences. But if he looks at you and he see his son and he see that you are righteous, he sees that you are just, he will take care of you. Right? Matthew 6:33. I'm going to go and read it to y'all. Hold on. Matthew 6:33. It says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all things will be given to you as well. There were many ways I could have responded in this situation, right? There are many ways I could have responded. There are many solutions that I could have sought, but I sought God first. And in everything that I did, right? Because I could have called that lady. I could have cussed her out. I could have cussed that lady in the office who lied on me, but I didn't. I didn't. Even though I was angry, even though I had unforgiveness in my heart, right? Even though, and I know a lot of people are going to watch this like, well, you was disobedient. You probably should have listened the first time when God said it was a person. Okay, I'll give you that. But even in all that, when God looked at me, when he examined me in this situation, he saw the way my heart was. He saw what had happened in the situations, and that I was seeking him, and I was seeking to be like him. And so he gave me the reward. But if God looks at you, even though you're being oppressed, right? I wasn't trying to make this into a lesson, I promise. This was a testimony. But I do sometimes be highlight. Anyways, But if he looks at you in a situation where you are the one being oppressed, exploited, extorted, but when he looks at you and then he don't see his son, and he see that the way that you move in the situation is the exact opposite of the way that he's called you to move, he will respond and he will give you judgment, just like the people who are oppressing you. So how you move in a situation, even when you're the one who's being done wrong, matters to God, right? Then another lesson you can take out of this is always put your trust in him. Because I gave you guys a testimony on my mom. I gave you guys this testimony about my tax situation. And I was worried. I was unnecessarily worried, stressed out. And each time God had me, he had my family. And I didn't need to worry. Literally, at the end, the next verse in chapter 6, it says, verse 34, it says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. That's verse 34. So you don't have to, when you believe in God, when you're living the way that he's called you to live, you don't need to worry. You're good. He's got you. And this, I also want to say this too. If you are someone who has been kind, who has went above and beyond out of the goodness of your heart for another person, right? The Bible says, love your enemies and give your enemy a cup of water, because it will make their situation, when the judgment comes, it will make their situation, it'll be like, I'm paraphrasing all this. It'll be like coals upon their heads, right? So God is saying, yeah, they're doing you wrong, but still treat them with kindness. I will be the one to enact vengeance upon them, right? I will be the one to vindicate you, and your vindication will be that much sweeter, right? And so if you've been kind to someone and they had the opportunity to be kind to you and they chose not to, don't worry about it. Don't let your heart be filled with unforgiveness. And know God is going to vindicate you. He's going to vindicate you, point blank, period. Right? And so I'm sure there's probably more lessons or whatever through all that. Take what's for you, leave what's not. But that's really all that I had. I hope that this blesses someone. If it didn't, I'm sorry. But let me know. Let you guys leave me a comment and like and all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time. Bye.